Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Ian Carlin. I just wanted to make a quick video talking about the tragic death and glorious death of my mentor and friend, Dr. Robert Morey, a man who I had great respect for and loved dearly and is now in the presence of the Lord. This was tough. This was really super tough. I just want to talk a little bit about how we met, the influence he had on me as a man, and the influence he had on me as a theologian, his generosity, and his legacy. And I don't know, I'm just not editing this or anything. I'm just kind of doing this off the cuff. But the truth is that there probably is very few theologians who had more influence on me in a particular time of my life when I was growing than Dr. Robert Morey did. I got interested in Dr. Robert Morey back in the early 2000s, like 2002, 2003, somewhere around there. And he had just recently moved to California, and I was actually in Utah, and I didn't know that he was doing a radio program or anything. Somehow I just happened to get some tapes of his, and this was back, tapes, and then actually some CDs later of his, and started listening to him and devouring them and really liking what he had to say, and it was really persuasive on me at that time. And then I found out that he had a radio program in which you could call in and ask questions, and so I used to call in rather frequently and ask questions. And in fact, I was the recipient of a reward. He offered a reward for a prize, not a reward, a prize for answering some questions on Islam, and I got all the answers correct. And so he sent me this package on Islam and all his books and stuff, and I was so excited. And at the time, I was really going through a change personally. I was kind of questioning a lot of my beliefs. I was very much kind of committed to a Presbyterian view of Reformed theology, but I was kind of questioning it and re-examining a lot of my own personal beliefs about the Bible and about what I believed and why I believed it. And he came in at a very crucial time in my life. And this is kind of where I developed I would say my second tier as a theologian. I kind of started to listen to what he said about the structure of the Old Testament versus the New Testament was very influential on me. The role of baptism in the believer was influential on me. The role of the law in the believer, he was very influential on me. How the Sabbath relates to the believer, he was very influential on me. It was so awesome how much he influenced me as a Christian. He helped me come to a better understanding of the scriptures. And he invited me down to his church. He invited me to speak at his church on a couple of occasions. I got to stay with him, and those are some of my fondest memories. I remember one time I was sitting in the front row because I was a front row kind of person. I sat in the front row. I'd listen to him, and it's one of the times I can't either remember, I was down for a seminar or something like that, and stayed and listened to his preaching on the next day. And which I loved. I mean, I loved listening to the guy preach. I mean, he was the full range of what a preacher should be. He had the intellect, I mean, it was like when we were going through the scripture, he would tell you like what the scripture meant, the historicity of the scripture. But then he would tell you like the practical relevance of it as well. And then he would go on and he didn't do it in some dry academic way. He would do it in this really hilarious way, but serious at the same time. It was like the whole spectrum of everything that you wanted listening to a preacher, in which I've tried my best to emulate in my own preaching. But I remember one time I was sitting on the front row, and he told me, he goes, life is, well, he's telling everybody, but he's like, life is you're working for Christ in this life. And he grabbed me by the ear and he pulled me up, and he said something like, son, he goes, when you're here, he goes, you clock in, and then when you're done, you clock out, and you know that you did it for Jesus. Anyway, it was something like that. It was pretty honoring for him to do that for me. He also ordained me into the ministry, and that was at a crucial time because I had just kind of left the church that I was about to be ordained in, and the question of my ordination was like, who's going to ordain me at that point? And Dr. Bob said, hey, I know your theology and I know your talent, and he said, I have no problem. So in 2005, Dr. Robert Morey ordained me to the ministry. And so he had a lot of influence on me theologically. He, again, invited me to stay at his home. But he had a lot of influence on me as a man, too. He very much taught me how to stand up. And he did this by example. He would I would see him and I would see the way he acted, his stalwartness, his ability to stand in the face of the cults, his ability to stand in the face of Islam, his ability to stand up for what was right, even among other Christians, and to do it in such a way that was honoring to God, had a big influence on me. And so he was just really super influential on me in my life. And I have to say, I have a regret, and that is that I didn't keep in contact with him the last couple years over the course of his life. A while back, he texted me and said, hey, you should come down. I was trying to give him some respect because he was dealing with a personal tragedy in his own life that I'm sure many of you know about. And he said he just kind of wanted to take some time, a year or two off. And so I kind of respected that. And I just kind of stood back and didn't contact him, didn't ask him questions, didn't do anything like that. And then the last year or so, we were in contact a bit. And he said, oh, give me a call. And I never did, and I should have. And he didn't live that far away from me. And we were just the other day, I mean, seriously, last Sunday, a week from Sunday, we were talking about him after church, and we were saying, man, we got to go down and see him. And I said, yeah, he gave me a message saying, when are you guys going to come down and see me again? So we were seriously thinking about setting it up. So that's a regret that I have. And then life gets in the way too. He had that tragedy, and I tried to stay away just out of personal respect for him. He also stood by me. I know this is kind of fragmented, but he also stood by me during a real tragic time in my own life. And he believed in me. He believed in my ministry, and he believed in my restoration to ministry, and he was always really happy when I finally came back into ministry. He was always really happy. He was very happy to see me back in ministry and back doing things for the Lord. And he stood by me during a very dark and difficult time, and I'm thankful for that. His legacy is impactful. He was somebody who wasn't afraid to not fit into any box, and to actually create his own new box that was based on the scriptures. And so his legacy, I think, is going to be seriously impactful for this next generation. His work, I mean, boy, the guy, wrote, I can't remember, somewhere around 50 books, and I don't even have all of them. I'm a huge fan. I've got tons of his books, and I still have tons of his tapes, and now, a lot of stuff on MP3, and I just cherish him all the more now. And I am I am sad to see him go, but I know that he's in heaven, and I know that he's happy, and I know that he wouldn't come back here even if God let him come back. That's what heaven is. Sometimes we use that word heaven, and we don't really think about what the term means. You know, heaven really is heaven. And you go there, you don't look back. And so I know today he's rejoicing in the Lord. Um, and I'm quite interested in seeing the legacy and how that's going to impact the next generation. Um, and I think that's really all I have to say. Thank you so much, people. God bless you, and we'll see you all later.